My guest is a stand-up comedian from Olympia, Washington. His album and special titled Round Trip was recently produced by Standup Records. He's the 2021 runner-up in the Seattle International Comedy Competition and has performed all over the Pacific Northwest with the Addicts Comedy Tour. Excited to welcome Sam Miller.
Hey.
I read your profile on your website pretty well there.
Yeah, and I wasn't like all around with the Addicts Comedy Tour, but I did work with the Addicts Comedy Tour. So.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. A long time ago when Laughs was in Kirkland, they asked me to host through Ron Reed, who was a part, because I actually did the Seattle International Comedy Competition in 2015.
Okay.
When I was less than 2 years into comedy, and I got 13th place.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Ron Reed, he's like the legendary. He was in the what's the Midnight, or was it the Montana Run?
Yeah. Ron's a guy that's always been really good to me. There's a lot of these.
Can you bring that mic up just a little bit?
Yeah, there's a lot of like Northwest low-key legends that have always been in my corner, and it's been good. Because we were talking a little bit before this, I made a fool of myself when I first started doing comedy. I was thinking about this before we got here, actually, because like I'm not a Seattle comic.
No.
I'm an Olympia comic.
Yeah.
And I did not have any like guiding hands.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
that's definitely one of the things I wanted to talk about with you. Before we dive into stuff, just if you are watching us on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, notifications bell, throw a question or comment in for Sam or myself. I got to fucking plug that within the first 2 minutes before people are like, neither of these guys look that interesting.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I should probably just be really interested.
Yeah. Just
I'm trying to think of the most
or interesting, whatever you can.
Yeah,
be.
I used to smoke meth. That's interesting. That's kind of what I'm known for.
Yeah.
They used to literally call me the meth comedian.
Really?
Yeah.
So let's just dive right into it. Like, what were you doing when you started to where you were rubbing people the wrong way?
Oh God.
You were homeless, right? Like let's create the narrative here a little bit so people understand. You're recovered now. You weren't on meth when you started stand-up.
God, no. I've been clean and sober for 14 years. I've been doing stand-up comedy for over 8.5 years.
So you were
I've been
5 to
married
6
for
years.
11 years. I already had 2 kids when I started comedy. I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. I was in school and working as a bouncer. Before that, I was a chemical dependency counselor for a while. But yeah, before June 10th, 2008, I feel like I've gone over this. And anybody who's familiar with any movies or has an addict in their life, like my life was absolute chaos, bizarre concoction of incarceration, being homeless and whatnot.
Is there anything about homelessness that most people wouldn't think about, like some like inside scoop on what it's like being homeless?
Yeah, a lot of times I didn't feel like I was that homeless, but looking back, I was like, I lived in a barn for a while.
Really?
And I did that Seattle Times at Outsiders podcast, and part of that is they interviewed me and my mom. And part of the interview, they were like, how long were you homeless? And I was like, I don't know, like 2 years off and on. And my mom's like, it was longer than that. And I'm like, Mom, who knows more about how long I was homeless, me or you?
Yeah.
She's like, what about when you were living in a barn? And I was like, Mom, barns are houses. And she's like, for cows? And I was like, you got a point. But it's the thing is, like, to me, like if I was outside, like I lived on a porch for a while, and I'm like, that was homeless. And I lived on a couple different porches.
Were you using meth while you were homeless?
Yeah. And
so
it
what
really
is like a day in the
accelerated
life of a homeless meth head?
I want to put this out there too, is that there's a lot of folks that had it a lot worse than me. And I was raised middle class. And so like I suffered situational poverty, basically, Whereas a lot of the issues that we face today is generational poverty. But anyway, I'm gonna get off my soapbox and just tell you that, yeah, it was chaos, man. Like, it was a thing. Like, I would go to my mom's house and tell her that I was gonna sober up. I'd stay there maybe 5 or 6 days a month, maybe. But yeah, I can't. It's hard to explain, especially my barn days, because it's not just meth. It's like,
Here, do me a favor.
I
just
can't explain
tilt
it.
this up a little bit.
All right, here.
Like just this part right
This
here.
part, okay, I'm gonna try to fix it.
Yeah. Just I want to make sure.
Is that better?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's not just like meth. It's like this whole thing. Like, I really hated being sober, and I would do whatever I had to be to not be sober. And then when I was high, I would do ridiculous, tragic, incredible things while I was high. And
Anything cool though? Like,
yeah, dude. Yeah.
because I've had similar experiences. I mean, there was like a 6-month period where I just completely, I was just gone.
Yeah.
Just doing
Yeah.
like I bought a car for cash and
Yeah.
drove to Indiana. like,
Yeah, I could never actually get I could never get that much money
Yeah.
to buy a car.
it wasn't a nice car.
No. I have no doubt that you weren't at the Benz dealership. I have no doubt. No, I mean, a lot of this stuff looking back on it was like I said, it was really dangerous. I'll tell this story. One night I'm high. I'm at a bar called the East Side Club in downtown Olympia with my friend Reed. And they were those guys, they let me live in this barn, and they were all musicians from like upstate New York. And I like met them, and they thought I was funny.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how it happened. I just wound up living in this barn by the side of their house, and anyway, well, I know how it happened. I was like, hey, can I live in that barn? I don't know why I'm trying to be Mr. Mysterious over here. But anyway, we're at this bar, and I was like, we were going to smoke a joint out at this park. And me and Reed went out there, and I'm basically blacked out. Like, I don't remember this. And we forgot the papers. So Reed's like, oh, I'm going to go up and get the papers, right? And then when he came out there, and this is Olympia, right? And Olympia literally is like the butthole of Puget Sound. Like, it's like the furthest south you can go, And there's all these mud flats, right? And Reed came back out, and he saw tracks that just went down the beach and around the corner. And he's like, oh, I guess Sam's dumbass like took off, right? And I don't know if I've ever told this publicly, but I don't really care. He was like, Sam's gone. And anyway, I woke up, and like I was in this garage, right? And I'm like looking around, and there was like an H2, like one of the newer Hummers. And this was probably like 2004 or something, right? And I was like,
Jermaine Dupri.
yeah, I was like, I don't know anybody with a car like this. And I'm like, what party was I at? And then I'm like, I'm curled up, and I'm like, what kind of blanket is this? And I looked, and it was one of those black covers that people put over barbecues. And I was like on this cold garage floor. I have no pants on, and there's like mud up to my chest.
Fuck.
And I'm like, why did these people make me sleep in their garage with a barbecue cover? What kind of asshole would do that? And like, I get up, and then I'm like, oh, wait. And I like look around the garage, and I had like broken into this garage.
Yeah.
And like, it's on the street that kind of like borders. And so like I found some rain pants, like some Helly Hansen rain pants, like put them on, and I just like
Fucking took off.
Yeah, I just walked back to the barn. And like Reed's there, he's like, what happened? And I did like, I didn't tell people about this stuff. Like, I was like, there was the life that I hid that people knew about, and then there was the life that I hid that people didn't know about.
So barn life was,
People knew I lived in a barn.
yeah, that was public facing.
Yeah, I tried to keep it private. Well, I had a girlfriend that would come to the barn, and she was like cool with barn stuff, but like it didn't really work out.
What were you doing for money?
I had some different things, man. Like, I mean, Honestly, like I would get money from my mom sometimes. Like I could get her to drop me like $20. Like
Yeah.
maybe once in a week it's like $20 from mom. I'd work day labor. I would find jobs. Stole stuff. I'm kind of jumping around it. Yeah, I was like, I feel bad about this, but I don't care either. I used to,
and I want to preface this, like I have spent a lot of time with people in recovery around it, and like you're not shocking me with any.
I know,
like,
I know.
And for people listening, like if I'm not like, oh my god, it's like addicts and people in those moments, like they're making really selfish, like just survival type decisions.
Yeah. And I like to tell folks too that like the thing that got me to like the worst part of my life, it wasn't like a big decision where I was like, oh, I'm gonna like smoke meth and live in a barn, and like it was like 1,000 little decisions, and all those decisions made sense to me because more than I like being high, like I hated how I felt when I was sober. Like when I was a kid, it was scary. I lived in a scary place in a scary house with a scary dad. And then he died when I was 12, and then everything else scared me until I got high for the first time, and I was like, I figured it out.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, oh my God, like I just need to be high and then I'll be okay. And
then it goes away.
Yeah, then it's like the things that I'm scared of are the consequences of the thing that I do to not be scared.
Dude, the worst part was when you started doing that stuff and it stopped working.
Yeah.
That was like the kind of there's no more solution.
Yeah, I think that it always worked for me, even up to the end. And you know what? Even at the very end, man, I would still have nights that were like awesome. That like I was like, that was sweet.
What
like,
was a killer night for you
oh,
at the peak?
Man, dude, like going to like barter fair and doing like I was doing a bunch of coke and like Molly and I was hanging out with all these graffiti artists and stuff, and like just honestly, dude, sometimes it feels good when people are like they kind of gas you up. They're like, we got Sam here, and like it's like he doesn't give a fuck, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember, dude, I woke up one morning with this girl. I was living in an abandoned house in like Tonasket, Washington, because I got fired from the Forest Service, and like my friend, he was like this graffiti artist who goes by Fetal. He was from like San Francisco, and I don't know how I met him, but like he was coming to my house to take me to the barter fair, which is like this crazy hippie like thing out in North Central Washington. And like I get this knock on the door. I'm like, who's here? And I woke up and I looked over at this girl that I was with, and her face was totally blue because she was like huffing spray paint. And like Fetal like comes in the house, and like I look over at this girl, and Fetal's looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and he's looking at her, and he's just like, Sam, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, like I don't know. And then there's like my fingers are all bleeding and shit, and there's like broken glass from a light bulb in the bed, and I'm like, oh, like I know what happened. Like I was blacked out drunk. I told this girl that we were gonna do a bunch of speed together. I got some speed. I don't know what happened to it, but I was trying to smoke it with a light bulb. I was too drunk. I broke the light bulb. She realized that we weren't going to smoke any speed, so she started huffing spray paint instead, and then I woke up with her. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was bad, man. Yeah. And even back then, like, you know, technically, like living in an abandoned house, like technically you're homeless. But like it didn't even feel like that to me because there was this other guy there. His name was Justin. Everybody, it doesn't matter. This dude.
So how did this transition to stand up? Because you got sober.
Well, I don't have to tell jokes about driving Uber or online dating. I have things to talk about.
For sure. But like, how did you go from this lifestyle to what you are today? Because
well, you know, we were talking a little bit before that. You know the answer to that, man. Is it? I got involved with like so June 10th, 2008. I woke up in front of a theater, the same theater I recorded my album at, and I woke up in a horrible position that I tell a joke about that I really like. And if you want to hear that story, you should get the album, which is a weird push for an album. He's like, Sam's a capitalist now.
Yeah.
I'm like, buy my album if you want to hear about what happened under the tarp that morning. But yeah, anyway, I woke up with a homeless lady under a tarp, and a lady looked at me while she was walking her dog, and like it felt like my life was done. I was like, I was going to kill myself, or I was going to get help. And I got help, and I got involved in a recovery program, probably the most well-known recovery program or whatever. And I don't talk about it a lot publicly, but it saved my life, you know. And my first year sober was harder than my last year doing drugs. I was working 3 jobs. I was trying to get back on my feet. I was still homeless off and on. My mom let me stay with her for a couple weeks, but like I had told my mom so many times that I was like getting sober. She didn't know what to believe. I don't think she actually like really bought in until I was probably a year sober.
That first year
like,
is so weird.
Yeah.
You have so much like you're so fucking raw.
Yeah.
And you have so much time.
Yeah.
Like that, because when you're actively using and stuff, half your life is spent fixing what happened the day before.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful because like I really don't remember that much of it, and I'm grateful for that. I really don't remember much of like the first like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Cuz like I'm known, like I have all these jokes about meth, but honestly like I did everything, man. Anything I could get my hands on.
Yeah,
and
just to feel different.
And alcohol was the thing that I loved the most because it mixed so well with everything else. And man, the kind of stuff it does to your head. Like, I mean, meth doesn't help, but like, God, like, I always say, like, when I got sober, it always felt like the world was going too fast or too slow. And I knew how to mix substances or use substances so I could either slow the world down or I could catch up.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I need to go faster.
Yeah.
Slow down, world. I want to get on.
Well, there's that thing too where like people in that first 60, 90 days, they get the motor mouth where they just like, they're just word vomit. And like, how long was it for you in recovery until you went to like go start doing stand up? Cause that's a completely different organism that like has its own.
Yeah. Yeah. So being in recovery, right? Like, I had always been funny. Well, actually, no, I hadn't always been funny. I didn't really get funny until I was like in my early 20s. I would have moments where I'd be funny, but I tried too hard. And I was like a classic, like try hard. Like, I would do ridiculous things to get attention because I wanted attention so bad. And I think somewhere in my early 20s, I realized that, hey, if I just chill out and don't say everything, like people are going to like me so much more. And it was a byproduct of like addiction, trauma. The worst parts of my life turned into this ability to be funny. And when I got in recovery, like now I had an arc, now it's like, okay, like I have these skills and like the one thing that everybody hated me for doing, I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm like, what is this world going to be? Can I do this? And at these meetings and stuff, I was constantly getting called on, and I wanted to make sure, there's some things I did that I was like embarrassed of, that I was like, this doesn't have anything to do with recovery, but these are like the thoughts that I was thinking, and I put them out there, and people laughed, and people laughed hard. And then they would ask me to speak at like these banquets and stuff. And they'd have like, we want a guy with less than 5 years. We want somebody with more than 10. And like, that was like this kind of like a format they would use at this thing. And they asked me, I had like 2 years sober, and I talked for 20 minutes about recovery to a group of like 400 people, which is bigger than most comedy clubs. Mm-hmm. And the thing is like, it's not stand up, but it's still me speaking, and I'm going to be funny.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be funny because I'm not going to duck it. Like I'm going to talk about real stuff, And so anyway, people kept telling me, they were like, you should do stand up. You should do stand up. And I like blew it off because honestly, I'm not a huge fan of stand up comedy. Like I love it now, and I see what it's worth. And there are stand-ups that I watch. Like I used to love Hedberg and Pryor and like stuff like that. And honestly, my dad listened to a lot of Bill Cosby stuff, but and I thought that was funny, but whatever. He's gone now. Well, is he alive?
I think he's still alive.
Yeah, I think he's in prison, isn't he?
I think he got out.
Really?
Yeah.
God dang, man. That's messed up.
I keep hearing, I did not like watch a lot of Cosby, but I keep hearing how fucking good he was.
Oh yeah, he's an amazing comedian and a horrible person, because being funny and getting power in this industry does not mean that you're a good person.
No.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm getting off track here, but it was people told me to do it one day. I walked down the street and I knew there was like an open mic there. My life had kind of mellowed out a little bit. Let me think. I was about 5 years sober, 6 years sober, something like that. And I went in and I did it. And the first time I did it, I told a story about being drunk and shutting my penis in a silverware drawer while making a cup of noodle, which really happened. I was like drunk and I shut. This is so funny. I was wearing boxers, right? And you know how your pecker kind of hangs down a little bit, right? And when you make the cup of noodle in the microwave and then you get the fork and you put it on top to hold the lid down or whatever. And I shut the silverware drawer and I just wasn't paying attention. And it I didn't slam it or whatever, but I shut it, and I shut it right on the tip of my penis. And it was like getting electrocuted. It was crazy, bro.
Yeah, I've had a similar incident where you're just like, well, how did that even happen?
Yeah.
It was like, of all the places to get caught.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I was like, somebody was like, did it hurt? And I was like, it was kind of like, it actually went all the way back around to not hurting. It was more just all of a sudden I was in a different dimension altogether. It was like getting electrocuted, dude.
Bro, I guess one of the things you touched on is in those meetings, in those speaker things, that's such a different audience from what a traditional stand-up audience is. And you've had kind of a non-traditional development path where you're you're in, I don't know if they're...
No, you're right. Yeah, just say it. It's fine.
Olympia isn't known for being a hotbed for stand-up comedy. It's not New York. It's not Chicago. It's not Minneapolis or Denver or any of these places. So you start doing stand-up down there, and your background... I felt this a lot myself, where when I started, I was used to trying to make people in recovery laugh. Mm-hmm. And those people are down for whatever. They've done some terrible shit. So I had this this zero concept of what is offensive. I didn't really understand. I thought if we were going into this game that comedy is, where we agree that we're saying things that are supposed to be funny, then you aren't going to be offended by it. And I had been to stand up enough to see it live in person, see how it worked. But until I started doing it, I was like, man, people are getting I do think at the open mic level, it's probably the most ripe for people getting upset about jokes and being offended. Yeah. As I've done it more, you have more discretion, sometimes it's the room, sometimes it's you, whatever. Yeah. But how did you navigate those aspects? Because I have to imagine for you, it was similar.
So luckily for me, I was sober for about 5 years before I did stand-up comedy. Yeah. And
I think that makes it worse.
No, it was good for me because also this is Olympia, and the folks that helped me get sober, a lot of them are gay and trans folks and stuff like that. So a lot of the language that I used, a lot of language that a lot of people used, was I basically got, outside of them helping me get sober, they helped me start thinking about other people when I'm speaking. And I immediately stopped using certain words. I stopped referring to things as gay. I stopped, I started to realize that the world as I understood it.
Were you still saying the N-word?
No, I never, for real. Hey, I wanted to do that. I said it like a few times, like a long time ago, but like when I was locked up, dude, like you don't say that unless you're ready to fight.
Yeah.
Like the N-word, punk, and bitch, if you say that shit, like it's going down.
Yeah.
And so like that word amongst like I'm not like some like convict, like I didn't do like a whole bunch of time, but like man, like I did time in like some really rough spots though, like because I was in Yakima, like the Yakima jail, and it's like a lot of people on federal holds. There's a lot of folks that are just like, yeah, it's just different. I just look at it different than other cats, so I didn't have an issue with that. But like it is some stuff, man. Like I had some ideas, like some political ideas that basically like white people are the new minority. And like, I used to think things like that because when you get locked up, it was the first time in my life where like being white didn't work out for me, like in the Yakima jail, you didn't want to be white. It wasn't good to be white. And it was weird. You didn't want to be black either.
No, it's
you wanted to be, you wanted to be Mexican. That's what you wanted to be, and, that makes you feel a certain way. And also like the other white folks too, a lot of them were caught up with like actually I'm not going to go into that, but
but
it's just jail stuff. Yeah. But it's like,
so back to you being politically corrected.
Yeah. But that's the thing though, is it like, so I had to get myself out of that mindset. And the thing is that I don't have like, I went to school and I started reading like Angela Davis and stuff like that. And I know it's wild, man, but this is the real, this is what really happened though, is I realized that the reason it sucked to be white in jail is because there wasn't a lot of white people in there. And the reason why there wasn't a lot of white people in there was because it's harder to get locked up if you're white. And once I had that understanding, everything flipped. And I was like, because I used to hate it, because like somebody told me, like I read in this book one time and they were like, white people are collateral damage in the war on drugs. And I was like, man, fuck you. Like I am really damaged. Like that shit fucked me up. I shouldn't have been locked up like that. I shouldn't have done that time. I shouldn't have. That was fucked up. I'm still pissed. There's nothing I can do about it. But when I really think about it, I get upset. But that's the thing, is that that's the truth though, is that that's what this is. That's what that always has been. Like the war on drugs is anti-black and anti-poor. And I got caught up in it because I didn't grow up poor and I didn't grow up.
This is a comedy podcast.
Listen, man, listen. I'm glad. You see me, I looked over. I hope you watch this on video because I looked over at Adam. I was like, Adam, I'm intense right now, bro. But that's just real. But that's the thing. So when I started doing comedy and people are like, oh, you should probably stay in your lane. Like I was like, I already got put in my lane. Like I'm good. I don't need to, what I think about, it really doesn't matter what I think about a lot of stuff because I don't know a lot about a lot of stuff. But I know about methamphetamines and I know about homelessness and I know about big people sex, and that's what I talk about. Yeah. And I don't give a shit because people like, I get this all the time, especially when I'm out in like rural areas. They're like, is it hard not to do it? Aren't you worried about like getting canceled? I'm like, no, I'm worried about gas money. Like I'm worried about how many like trying to sell t-shirts and shit. Like I don't worry about
Is there stuff that you don't talk about on stage that you wish you could? Because I guess I agree with, like, you find I think every comic has to figure out what is theirs, what they are comfortable talking about. Like it's a, who said it to me recently? Dwayne Goad.
Oh, yeah. I love Dwayne.
I made peace on that joke. Like I have to make peace with God on this particular joke, and that's how he views it. Is like there are people that aren't gonna like those jokes, but like as long as he's good as to where he's coming from with on that joke, because like I literally think any joke that's not fluffy or like certain subject matter, you could pick apart and be like, oh, that person's not supposed to be saying that or whatever. Like it depends on who you want to be for.
Yeah, I think,
which is you gotta understand how not to be that way first before deciding that. That's the mistake.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about what makes stand-up comedy good, and it's about the things that we don't say, and we know that my job is to try to get the most people to laugh as much as they can, and I'm going to do that by tapping into who I am. So to your question that I've already forgotten, is there are things that I wish I could talk about. I just remembered. Yes. And the pleasure of growth and the pleasure of like continuing to improve in stand-up comedy is finding ways to do that. So like, yeah, like I can do about 10, 15 minutes of like hardcore jokes about like using methamphetamine before crowds start to shut down.
Yeah.
And I like it when I can do more. And sometimes later in a set, I'll try to dip back into it and see what I can get away with. But then it's funny because then my joke literally becomes, I'll tell the crowd, it's like, hey, I'm seeing how many of these meth jokes I can do.
Yeah.
And they're like, especially when you're in like, man, like learning how, it's like you got to learn how to not do comedy, like not do your act.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
like,
you're headlining at Nate's right now, right?
Yeah.
At Super Funny Comedy Club.
Yeah. That's
How
so
was last night?
It was good. The early show was a lot of folks. The late show was kind of light, but that's like classic late show Friday. Also Black Friday, you know, but the late show was good too. But the early show was popping. No, man, I was feeling good. And it's a lot of people that have seen me a lot. Like a lot of my like kind of like friends and fans that came up from Olympia, and some Tacoma friends and fans came up.
Is that the first club locally that's headlined you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you and Nate run, like you know each other a while back?
Yeah, I've been doing stuff with Nate. I think 2017 was when we, back when it was, before it was the Super Funny Comedy Club, he had Nate Jackson's Super Funny Comedy Show, and it was at different locations, mostly Keys on Main, I think. That's the first time I did a guest spot, and then he moved one to Alma Mater. I did a featured there one time.
Yeah.
Nate's been really good to me in like a really Nate kind of way. Nate cracks me up, man. Like he's a special guy. I don't know how he does it, and so I make sure to give him like lots of space, basically, because he knows how much I appreciate him, and especially this opportunity. I've headlined other clubs, but this is by far like the biggest club that I've headlined. So like I have a lot of love for like Savage Henry in Eureka, California. Chris Durant down there. He's been a big part of my development. And same thing like Last Best in Bozeman, Montana. There's a comedy club in Bozeman called Last Best Comedy, and they headline me too.
Yeah.
And then also I have been closing out bar shows since I was like a year and a half in. So
you mainly developed like on the road, getting wherever you can get stage time.
Well, this is a thing. I don't know. This might have been, I think this was a little bit before your time, but I ran a weekly show in Olympia for like 4 years called Vomity. And it was a curated mic with a feature spot at the end. And we'd switch it up and do some different things. Sometimes we'd have like a showcase. Maybe once a month we'd do like a showcase. And that's where I learned really how to do stand-up, was there. Because hosting, especially hosting a show where you have a lot of regulars and coming up with new material all the time, that was it. Like, I always tell newer comics this, is that, man, fast forward on comedy is running your own show, running your own mic, promoting it, doing it. And I did that for a very long time with that show. And that show was very successful for a very, like, it did well.
I saw that, like, promos for that show before I started doing stand-up.
That's awesome. Yeah. There was some stuff, I was really proud of, like, I was really proud of, if you ask me, like, my 5 best moments in comedy, like, somewhere in there is, like, the first Vomity where people came out. But even better than that was the second one, when I was like, oh my God, there's still like a crowd here. And it was this weird, like, it was Olympia. Because it's the thing is, like, people don't like Olympia comics, and you think of Gabe Rutledge. Gabe Rutledge is on another level. Like, you should get him in here for this.
He has.
Oh, yeah, good. All right,
and Nate, actually.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man. Okay.
We did it down at Nate's club when I featured. So.
Oh, dope. Okay. So like Gabe and Nate, it's the same thing. Like, Nate's Lacey, but Gabe's an Olympia guy, and he crushes. But wait, what were we talking about?
Fuck.
I'm so bad at podcasts. You know that. Like, I think this is actually the best I've done because I'm really trying
Vomity,
to answer
your
questions.
top 5 moments.
Oh yeah, the second one when people were still there. And then is the thing, right? So like, there are Olympia comics. There are, but they move away. They kind of do their thing, you know. Man, Khadijah Hassan, Nate Wolf, Chocolate the Entertainer, like, and it's weird comedy too. And like, I did Vomity because I had like a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old at home, and I'm in recovery. I'm working. Like, I'm like, that show saved my marriage because I could get stage time without going to Seattle twice a week.
Yeah.
Just go to Seattle once a week and hope she doesn't leave me. You know, like,
no, it's a real thing. Like my buddy Damon, he's up in Bellingham right now. He's in college, and he's Damon Lawton, like good dude. And he's like, dude, how do I get better? Like, I'm up here, I got to finish school and stuff. I'm like, well, there's no race. Like, you're not. You should probably get your degree if you've already put 3 years into it. And like, stand-up's not going anywhere.
No.
And he's putting on show. Like, I'm doing his show this week, and it's to create your own space. Like, I do think to develop, you need to be around other comics, both newer ones and older ones, so that you can learn from the people that are in front of you and then give back what you can to the newer people.
Yeah.
But if you're just by yourself, that tends to lead to bad habits. And if you're only around comics all the time, that leads to its different habits.
Yeah, especially those like, I don't know if you've ever talked about like the hustle culture and that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, like you know, my number one advice to new comics is to take care of yourself outside of comedy. Like, go for walks, keep friends that aren't comics, go to therapy, like all the stuff that, you know, like self-care, like 101, and that doing that will put you in a position for possible long-term success. And also, if you don't like love it, if it's taking away more than it's giving, like, it's okay to stop doing it too. A lot of my favorite comics in the world do not do stand-up comedy anymore. And I know it was really hard for them at first, but it's okay to not do it. And I'm not just saying that like, oh, this is for me, not for you. This is for whoever wants it, you know? Like, we're basically in an agreement with these crowds that we're going to do our best to be funny and they're going to do their best to laugh. And we can enter and leave that agreement at any time. You know what I'm saying? So like, all those folks, like, just chill out, man. It's going to be like, okay. And I'm saying this too as someone who was not chill. Like, this isn't coming from a place of like, I've always been so wise. I still make mistakes, man. I doom scroll on Instagram and I'm like, how come Adam's got this gig and I don't? How come they don't book me in Bellingham? You know?
Yeah.
Like, even you saying that, I'm like, who's this guy? He's the thing in Bellingham?
Damon Lawton, hit him up.
Yeah, it's an off night show.
Yeah.
Like, I got plenty of off nights.
There you go, man.
Yeah,
I got a show in Everett if you need to do it. I mean, I hear what you're saying completely. I'm just like turning the knife right now.
Yeah,
but
no, I love it.
No, I think I've had that same experience too, where it was like starting to just feel like, man, this is just, it's not fun. And to be, I mean, I just got done with a competition. You did that competition. You came in second, and like,
and congratulations to everybody. If you guys don't know this, Adam made it to the semis in the Seattle International Comedy Competitions, which is probably the toughest comedy competition in the country. Like, it really is. Like, the level of comics that are in that contest year after year is mind blowing.
And you came in second.
Yeah, which is much better than you did. But no, it's all jokes aside. Like,
well, it led to you getting an album deal with Stand Up Records.
There's no, I don't know if it's like a direct correlation, but it led to me believing that I can have long-term success as a stand-up comedian. And that's more important. More important than the scores was being in front of crowds that size and going from 6 minutes to the semis, which is 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
and then going to like 17 in the finals or whatever we do in the finals, and watching my sets, like the judging results are the judging results. And honestly, like when I was in the contest, even though I swept the first 4 of the prelims. So no matter what, I was going to get first. So I tried to switch it up on the last night to try out some stuff, because they have a drop score every round, and so like I knew that I was guaranteed first place. And in the semis, I think I won 3 of the 5, and I was like, all right. And it was cool because there are a lot of people in my corner that root for me, and like I said, I made mistakes early in comedy, and there's some comics that don't like me, and there's some clubs that don't like me. It's okay. I know that I made mistakes, and there's also things that I don't feel bad about at all. I'm not going to specify which ones are which, but yeah, man, what a ride, like it was. And it was funny, I was taking long walks and listening to weird music and like trying to get out of my head. And like that's the other thing I learned from that, is finding creative ways. I started doing yoga, which I still do, like I'm like, all right, like if you're going to do this, if you're going to go for it, if you're going to put yourself that far out there, you better be taking care of yourself.
Yeah, that part's hard. When you're doing the road like you do,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you're going to you have LA lined up, you got Denver lined up, and Chicago. Like, what does that look like now?
Well, LA and Denver are kind of outliers because I'm flying there, and I got shows in San Diego. Honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do in LA. I got one of them. One of them's like a winery. A guy I met in the contest. He's a Frankie Marcos, man. He's a great comic. He's really fun. He's a really good guy. Love you, Frankie. And Denver already happened. And that is somebody I met at a festival. That's Zach Moss. Helped me with those. Great guy. And Chicago is wild. That's new, and that's really fun and really cool. Is it another guy I met in the contest? He's a Japanese fella, baseball player. I think his name's Saku. I might be messing up his name. I can't remember. We might want to take that part out. I can't remember. I think I got it right though. I'll see. He helped me get a guest spot at the Laugh Factory in Chicago. And I wound up closing out the late show. They run 3 shows on Saturday nights at the Laugh Factory, and like that last show, like I think it's like 11:30. People are coming in, and like usually that last spot, when I went up on stage, it was like after 1, and they were down like a cook, and they were like, "Can you stretch?" And I'm like, so what? The last call? Is that what we're doing here? And it's like the dirty show or whatever. And I was like, and the place was sold out. And you're talking like 300 folks, maybe more. I don't know how many. I think it holds more than that. And there's like a balcony. And I'm like, you know about this, is there's moments in comedy where it's like, how bad do you want this? Like, can you do this? You got this, Sam? Are you okay? And there's always that, the host says your name, and then you walk to that microphone. And I looked out and I was like, I'm gonna be all right. And then I was like, hey, like I used to do meth. Let's go. And it's one of those moments, man, where like I hit, bro. Like once my opener hits, and like then I got to make a decision, which way am I gonna go, And then I made a couple weird choices, and I was like, kind of losing them, but then I was like, nah, I got this, and I went hard into the big people sex stuff, and like that hit, and then once I'm in there. Then once I hit that stuff, then I knew that I could go towards these 2 or 3. I use 2 or 3 different closers depending on what's going on. And I knew, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this closer, and then I'm going to do this closer. And I was like, I'm figuring out ways to link them up, because I'm thinking about the next 2 or 3 jokes while I'm doing like a joke, especially if it's a joke that I've done a few times. And because I have that adrenaline going, man, and it's the same thing. It's about like trying to like scheming, like that's what I'm doing up there. I'm like, how am I gonna pull this off? And then, man, I hit that second closer, and I was like, perfect. Like I got the light halfway through the joke, and I'm like, I think I did really good. And then afterwards, like I didn't say anything publicly online, but like I got a standing ovation and like people were like pumped. And usually people start leaving for the last comic on those late shows because it's so late,
Yeah.
you know. But I get this standing ovation, bro, and I was like, "Dang, man! Like I just killed it, like the Laugh Factory and like
That's
Chicago."
fucking rad,
I know, dude.
Yeah.
I'm just pumped. You can see if you can see the look on my face, like, and then they were like, "Yeah, we want you back," and like, you know what I'm saying? Like you hear that a lot. They're like, "Oh yeah, you want me back at the Laugh Factory in Chicago?"
Yeah.
I'm sure. And then sure enough, man, dude hit me up, the booker, and yeah, I'm doing a whole week in March where I'll close out every show for like a week and I'll headline once, but most of them are like a showcase style.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
man.
Dude. Yeah,
That's rad.
it's nuts. And you know what's funny about it is like the financial part of it. I'm not going to go into details, but like it's okay. Like, but it's not like this isn't like life changing. You know what I mean?
No.
But what is dope, and you know this as well as I do, is that anytime you're in front of that many people in a scene outside of your own, like it's going to lead to other stuff, you know? And that's it, because I don't, like I said, man, like there's people, I made mistakes early on in comedy because, and it was all an ego, which is it kills you. It kills me, and it could have damn near killed my career. But a lot of the folks that I've been able to, like I've done my best to try to clean up the wreckage of my past. And that's before I got sober and after I got sober. So it's going, man. Let's go.
Yeah, dude. That's fucking rad.
Yeah, dude. I don't have any regrets.
I resonate a lot with what you said, where there's no fucking blueprint on this stuff. Like you don't come in and like there wasn't anybody. You just posted about the first mic that you ever did.
Yeah.
And there was nobody that pulled you aside and be like, "Hey Sam, for you to end up closing out shows at the Laugh Factory in Chicago, this is how you get there."
Yeah.
You had to figure that out, and part of that was overworking, and part of that was figuring out meditation and fucking up and making those mistakes and shit. And like, dude, I mean, you said you started seeing my face. Like, I got more looks from one specific club in this region that a lot of people don't work at.
Yeah.
And those people have helped me develop and become the comic. I mean, watching good comedy.
You're talking about laughs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got love for laughs too. I'm all right. You know, that's the thing with me in these clubs is like, yeah, there's some clubs that I don't work and there's reasons why I don't work them. And I got a lot of love for laughs. There's nothing like I don't have any beef there. I was at the finals there.
Yeah.
You know, Dave and Angela do a good job, and they have a lot of good comics there. Yeah, and there is that way, but you're doing other stuff too. Like a lot of folks, man, it's different around here because there's not that many clubs, you know. And
but there was also not a lot of people interested in helping.
No,
you know,
no,
there's probably for every one person that goes out of their way to help in comedy, there's 9 people that'll brush you off.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to navigate it, and people are like, "Oh, fuck this person," whatever. So, and we don't, it's all negativity and bullshit. But
you know, even me and you, right? Like there could be times where I'd be like, all right, hey, you want to come check out this stuff I got going on in Salem? Adam, why don't you come do a couple road gigs with me? And honestly, like I see you on social media, I'm like, oh, Adam's doing fine. Like he's good. Like he's got his stuff going on up here. But that's not necessarily like the way it should be.
No.
You know, like, but you know, a lot of times, man, people will be like, oh, this comic and this comic. And I'll be like, I don't know if they're ready for that yet, you know. But I saw him at like, it's like I saw him in like Renton at an open mic, and you know what mic I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I love that mic. Shout out 907, Monty Taylor, James Taylor, great guys. But like you'll see somebody at like a mic, and it'll be a mic that like I love the 907, that mic, and I don't know why we're talking about the 907 now. Actually, you're not doing it. I'm the one doing it. But you see somebody at a mic and you're like, oh, I don't know. Maybe they got one joke they're working on and maybe they messed it up completely and they come off like an asshole. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, you know, there's a guy like, I mean, like Gunnar Israel, right? Have you mess with him?
No,
like,
he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, I love that dude. I think he's hilarious.
Yeah.
And like we went and did a couple. I've taken him to do a couple shows, but I don't know. Like his drive is weird. Like I can't tell like how much he wants it, how much he doesn't. I'm
trying really hard.
Me, please.
Yeah, I think Gunner is like a sweet dude.
Yeah,
and I really hope to see him continue like doing what he's doing. Like I've seen a lot of progress from him, and I don't know, man. I don't really want to like just specific people. It's hard for me, like, because I know what it feels like to just like have my name thrown out on a camera or on a microphone.
Oh, really?
And like every time, I'm like, what the fuck? So I try to be really respectful of that if I can. Just it's because it's. And not that you're saying anything wrong, but I mean,
there's stuff wrong with him. There's a lot wrong with him.
I love that dude, man. I genuinely do.
Love you, Gunner.
There was one show I did with him together where we were outside at a fucking laundromat on like a Tuesday night at like 9 o'clock or something. It was in the dead of winter. And both of us were like, why are we even, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that, you know? So.
Yeah. I always talk about Gunner. Like, I like traveling with him because he's just such a little fella.
Yeah.
You know, I
He's
drive
just easy.
Yeah. I've made my comedy, all these road gigs. Like, I drive a Honda Fit a lot of the times to save gas money. And like, it's ironic because I don't fit, you know? Like, but I save money and it's fun having a little Gunner.
Yeah, just sit in the back seat.
Yeah.
It's a booster seat.
Yeah. Take that.
All right. Well, where can people find your stuff online? I
always just direct people, man, like sammillercomedy.com, and it has all my information on that. Sam Miller Comedian on Instagram. And I'm really proud. I'm on a 3-album deal with Standup Records, which was a really big deal for me and a good deal for me because I do struggle with the business side of things sometimes. And I recorded my album in April. We're still figuring it out, like art stuff. Like that's kind of where we're at. Like the special is done. We recorded it like 7 cameras or something like that. It was crazy, bro. Damn. Yeah. And like I said, we recorded it at the theater. You know about this?
I think so.
So I woke up under a tarp in front of this theater in downtown Olympia, June 10th, 2008. And then I recorded my special at that theater.
That's wild.
Yeah. We were going to call it Full Circle, but Tyler Bowe, do you know Tyler?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tyler Bowe actually already has an album called Full Circle. So we changed the name to Round Trip.
Gotcha.
Which is how it goes. So
hell yeah, man. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, man. It was an absolute pleasure, and I wish you nothing but like continued success and stuff like that. And you know what? I bet we will find a way to work together in a more substantial way. So you should probably help me get on this Bellingham thing. Yeah. I can't really do much for you, but if you could get me on this Bellingham thing,
I got you, bro. David, if you're listening or watching, hit up Sam.
Yeah, just make sure the money's right. All right, David, because like I got a family to feed and stuff like that. And if I don't support my family, they'll leave me and then I'll start doing meth again. And that'll all come back to Adam, and he can't deal with that.
Yeah, it's round trip.
Yeah, Gunner would have a horrible time with me if I was on meth.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to rate and review us wherever you're listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure to hit that notifications bell so you don't miss our upcoming content. Hit that like button, subscribe button. And then if you got any questions or comments about meth or big sex or I guess big people sex, anything for Sam.
Big sex with big people.
Big sex with big people.
Yeah. Tarps,
just like whatever your favorite moment was from this episode, throw a comment in. It helps us a lot with the algorithm. And as always, follow us on Instagram at FNFpod. We're going to leave you with Jaga.
I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. My wave pool, my wave pool. Welcome to 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 my wave pool.